He walked an anteater on a leash through the streets of Paris, and once almost got suffocated because he insisted on giving a lecture in a deep diving suit. Most people know Salvador Dalí for his melting clocks, but to understand the art, we first have to understand the man who claimed the only difference between me and a madman is that I'm not mad. Let's start by decoding his quote. By saying this, Dali meant that while he explored the same crazy territory as a madman, he remained the master of his own mind. A madman is trapped in hallucinations and loses touch with reality. Dali, however, was a conscious explorer who could visit that insanity, capture its images, and then return and use his paint skill to represent them. So Dali wasn't out of control. He was using his imagination as a professional tool. But why did Dali get so fascinated by the world of dreams, and why did he decide to paint this imaginary world instead of reality? Dali lived during the rise of Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis. At the time, the artist's new discovery wasn't a planet or a machine, but the human subconscious. Dali was obsessed with the idea that our dreams are like a secret language filled with our deepest fears, desires, and memories. And to him, the dream world was the only place where you could be 100% honest. To Salvador Dalí, reality was boring and limited. He even once said that the world needed more fantasy, and he definitely contributed to that fantasy in the world. Having imagination and dreams as a subject matter means infinite possibilities. By using his incredible talent to paint unreal things in a very real way, he forced the viewer to question their own senses. But how did Salvador Dalí get inspired? Did he wait to dream at night to get all those images? Or did he have some kind of method to force his inspiration? Because we know that many people remember their dreams and dream very often, but there are others that feel like they barely dream. And so Dalí used a method called the Paranoiac-critical method, and it was like his secret sauce for forced inspiration. Despite the name, it had nothing to do with being medically paranoid. It was just a conscious mental exercise to get inspired. Essentially, it is the ability to the brain to perceive multiple realities within a single configuration. The process is simple. Dalí would look at an object and then project obsessively his fears and obsessions until he saw something else entirely. And the result would be double images. For example, a landscape could also be a face. Now let's focus on one of his most famous paintings. I'm going to analyze it in detail, and I'm sure that it will get you inspired for the drawing exercises that I'm going to present afterwards. In this painting, Dalí invites us into a dreamscape, modeled after a landscape in Catalonia, Spain. This is his Paranoiac-critical method in action. He takes ordinary things we trust, like clocks, and melts them down to show that reality isn't as solid as we think. The title suggests that our memories and dreams don't follow a schedule, they bend and stretch. Like all great surrealist art, it's a bit unsettling. It draws you in with its beauty while pushing you away with its strangeness. In terms of composition, we can see that the surreal objects on the left are balanced by a more traditional real landscape in the distance on the right. So we have a contrast between what's surreal and what's real. This composition creates a high horizon line that directs the attention to the foreground, highlighting that the most important here are the clocks, and the landscape just builds the setting where this dream is happening. This dream has a specific mood set by the color palette. The cool blues and yellows of the distant skyline contrast with the warmer oranges and browns of the foreground. Even though this is a dream, these earthy tones make everything feel more grounded and real, almost giving a sense of calm. And I say almost calm because this picture is actually very unsettling. And the big contributor to this feeling is the hyperrealistic style that Dali used. He even described it as hand-painted color photography. By using a real art landscape, he makes the melting objects feel more disturbing because the familiar setting makes the impossible feel real. Now let's have a look at the iconic clocks because they are definitely the stars of the show. Legend has it, and Dali confirmed it, that the idea for the melting clocks came to him after looking at a half-eaten runny piece of camembert cheese. Remember the Paranoiac-critical method that I mentioned? Here it is. He basically stared at a piece of cheese and started seeing clocks. This may sound strange, but he basically did what we do when we look at clouds for a while and then we start seeing all sorts of things. Basically like that. That's the method that Dali used. Of course, that these melting clocks have hidden messages. They can represent the fluidity of time, the idea that time is not fixed or absolute. And if they are melting, they will eventually stop working, which means time will lose its meaning. And permanence goes with it. But why? Ants and flies are the answer. Ants are consuming this gold pocket watch as if it were rotten fruit. And even though this watch is not melting, we know that there is something bad going on because ants are usually not a good sign. These little creatures symbolize decay, rot, and the passage of time. And they are eating the art watch, showing that even mechanical time eventually dies. Next to this situation that is going on with the ants, there is a fly. And flies are not a good sign either. The fly and its reflection in the watch glass allude to the tradition of still life painting and memento mori, reminders of death. Dali didn't coin the meanings of these symbols. They have been used for centuries to represent the fleetingness of life. So the next time that you go to a museum and see flies or ants in a painting, you know the real meaning behind it. Let's go back to our painting, and in the center of it, there is an amorphous face shape that is an approximation of Dali's own face in profile. Here the artist represents himself dreaming the scene around him. In art, even a barren empty space can have meaning. And so let's have a look at the right and bottom corner of this painting. It's really dark and looks empty. But is it really empty? It makes us wonder, because I feel like some monstrous figure can come out of the darkness very quickly. And so this empty space also contributes to that feeling of uneasiness that I mentioned in the beginning. Let's analyze one last element, the tree. In Spain, particularly in Catalonia, where Dali lived and where he came from, the olive tree was a symbol of life, peace, and ancient wisdom. By painting this tree dry, leafless, and dead, Dali is signaling that the world of this painting is one of decay, of course, because all of the other symbols, and also because of this the tree, and it reinforces the idea that time is not just bending, it's running out. From a purely artistic standpoint, the tree provides a vertical element in a very horizontal painting. It draws the viewer's eye upward and balances the heavy block on the left side. Without the tree, the painting would feel bottom heavy. There is one last thing that is intriguing me. While I was researching, I read in a book that there is an egg in the painting and that means birth. But then I tried to confirm this theory and I couldn't find much information about it. So what do you think? Because there is something in there, right? Or am I crazy? It looks like an egg. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think? That made me think that while it is very important to read and know what art historians say because they are the experts, it's important to also leave a little tiny space for our own interpretations, to project our thoughts and beliefs into what we are seeing. And so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to give my very quick interpretation that mixes some things that I said and other things that came to my mind. So I think that yes, there is an egg in there and it represents birth. It's in the distance because in a way, time has passed, like one couldn't stop time because it just melted. Ants and flies are not only a sign of decay, but they also represent something that one cannot control, because if they want to invade the space, they will, and it's going to be very hard to get rid of them. So it's like a inevitable thing. And this thing of the ants, and if you remember, I mentioned that Dali walked an anteater, and yeah, the thing with anteaters, he walked an anteater in a way, or he had anteaters to keep ants away, which means to keep decay away and to protect himself so things wouldn't get rotten or around him or something like that. I don't know, it came to my mind. So also, yeah, the dark space, it's also like I don't know, something dark can emerge from it. And on the opposite side, there is like a platform. It looks like a stage. So I think that maybe that represents like where life actually happened, like a stage. I don't know. I could go on and on talking about what comes to my mind when looking at the painting, but now it is time for the drawing exercises. As I've been talking about time, my suggestion is to make 2 drawings. One imagining what happened before Dali's painting, and another one imagining the future, as if you are building a triptych where Dali's painting is in the middle, representing the present, and then you have to draw the past and the future, keeping the same setting. I'm going to give you some guidelines for you to start thinking. I want you to answer to the questions that I'm going to ask next. So grab pencil and paper and start writing. For the first drawing that represents past, the first question is, how was the scene? Was there more light in it, like a bright sunny day? Because Dali's painting looks like a sunset or the beginning of the day. So think about the lighting of the scene. Were the clocks in rigid shape, like before? How were they before starting to melt? Did the tree have leaves? Were there people in the scene? Because Dali's painting has no one in it. So think about if there were people in it, what were they doing? Were they in the background, were they in the foreground, or both? Or in that stage that I mentioned? Think about that. What was the state/shape of the amorphous face? Was it awake, standing, eyes open? Was it making something like an action or something? And last question, were there flies and ants or not? For the second drawing that represents the future, I want you to start by thinking about the lighting again, the scene. Is it day or night? Because the triptych can be like day, sunset, and then night, for example. What happened to the clocks? Did they melt completely? Did they transform into something else? Or did they disappear? What happened to the tree? If that is an egg, did something come out of it? If yes, what? A person, a monster, an animal, crazy creature? Did the amorphous face change? Did it wake up, moved, or transformed? And last question, if there are even more flies and ants in the scene. These ideas are just a starting point. Feel free to add more and then transform these words in drawings. You can use the material that best suits you, and if you use color, think about the color palette, if it's the same of Dali's or if it changes. Now I'm going to show you some quick sketches to give you one last bit of inspiration. Here's the first drawing that would represent the past. So as you can see, the tree is alive, it has leaves in here. The clock is still rigid, even though there are some ants coming to the scene. I added a lot of people to the scene, some here in this sort of stage. I kept the cliffs, I added one more tree, added the sun, added a few birds here that would eventually originate the egg. And for the amorphous face, it's like as if it is a balloon that is being held by these strings that people are holding. Is looking at the tree representing life, but the expression is sad and it already has a fly in the head, meaning that the life will eventually end. Then for the drawing that would represent the future, I changed the scene a little bit. I added some vultures. The clocks completely melted. They're like unrecognizable. There's a fly, there's ants, and this is kind of like a hole on the ground. The tree is even more destroyed. There are a few branches on this structure. It's night, it's represented here by the moon and some stars. The cliffs are still the same. The water, the seashore is bigger, is occupying more space here. But there is a person that came out of the egg, meaning that maybe life will come back or these creatures will also destroy this life. So I don't know, it depends on how dramatic I want it to be. Then I made this one. It's also like representing the past. I added figures. The amorphous face is already on the ground, but the eyes are open. The tree is still alive. There is a clock, but again, there are ants already coming into the scene. And then I made this one. I tried to be a bit more surrealist and some creatures that look like dogs or ants or enormous ants, but they're like human, but their bodies are clocks. Here's a big face that is actually a clock. The flies are much bigger. It's a bit more crazy, let's say. So I made these very quick sketches just to unlock my imagination. So feel free to develop your drawings and build your own ideas, add color, and make some nice drawings. If you made drawings and post them on Instagram, make sure to tag me so I can see them. Hope you enjoyed this art class. If so, click the like button below, let me know your thoughts in the comments, share with your friends and family, and of course, if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe my channel so you don't miss anything. Remember, Annabelle's Drawing is your art education channel on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.